right. Welcome everyone to today's Tuesday Times Roundtable. My name is Janeri Mendoza Farjan, and I'm the Senior Program Coordinator for the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. The Tuesday Times Roundtable they run every week on Tuesdays, and this is our office discussion series that cover global issues and trends. Today's session is going to be about justice across borders, study criminal law in Italy this spring. If you would like to learn more about TTR or watch the past recordings or even reference this one, you may go to go.fiu.edu/TTR. In a minute, you're going to see also in the chat an access to sign in for today's session. It is go.fiu.edu/TTR sign in, and you can also scan the QR code on the screen so it can take you to that form. Whether you're here for Global Learning Medallion points, also honors college points, or extra credit from your professor, we're just happy that you're here with us. Okay, you would also like to learn more about the global learning programs, including the Global Learning Medallion, the Peace Corps Prep, or scholarship or fellowships available within our office. You may go to goglobal.fiu.edu/students. And also for the medallion students, also remember that this is a one-point opportunity, so make sure that you save your screenshot to add it to your points log. We also do have available peer advising hours, so you may go into our Instagram page, Go Global FIU, to reference on the advising schedule. They're available every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And every TTR is also linked to a news article that continues the discussion. In today's article, you may find it at go.fiu.edu/TTR0916. And this is because FIU has a partnership with the New York Times, where everyone with an FIU email gets access to the free digital New York Times. So you may do it by going to accessnyt.com. Also, today's session connects with SDG number 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions by promoting a peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development, providing access to justice for all, and building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. If you would like to learn more about this SDG, including the targets, indicators, and the progress on this goal, you may go to go.fiu.edu/SDG. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce today's presenters, Dr. Melba Pearson and Dr. Allison Matulli. A little bit about the presenters. Dr. Pearson is a Miami-based civil rights and criminal law attorney. She is the director of prosecution projects at FIU and a national expert in prosecutorial reform and gender-based violence. A former prosecutor and ACLU leader, she played a key role in restoring voting rights to Floridians with felony convictions, and is a dynamic public speaker, educator, and the author of Can They Do That? Understanding Prosecutorial Discretion. Welcome, Dr. Pearson. And we also have with us Dr. Matulli, Allison Matulli. She's an adjunct professor at FIU's Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice and affiliate faculty with the Maurice A. Ferré Institute for Civic Leadership. A Fulbright scholar, global scholar, fellow for the First Amendment at the Freedom Forum, and a founder of the Leader Lawyers. She is committed to empowering youth through legal literacy, and she is the award-winning author of Your Freedom, Your Power, a kid's guide to the First Amendment, and forthcoming Disney Hyperion picture books, I Am Because We Are, and I Am a Patriot. Welcome, Dr. Matulli. It's a pleasure to have you both, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And good afternoon, everyone. We're really excited to be able to chat with all of you about our upcoming spring break trip. And it will be to Rome, Italy. And we will be doing a comparison between the Italian criminal justice system and the US criminal justice system. So, how the course is going. So, we have three options for courses in order to join us. So, first off would be ethics in criminal justice. The code on that is CCJ 4054. And then also, if you've already taken ethics in criminal justice, you can take professional development, which is code CJE 3001. And then lastly, if you've taken that as well, don't worry, we've got something for you. There is independent study, which is CCJ 4910. Don't worry, there we have a flyer as well as a link that we can drop in the chat so that you can access this information later on. But the whole goal is to really dive into the differences between the ethical obligations of the stakeholders in the US and compare that to what's happening in Italy. And so, for instance, what's the role of prosecutors? How is that different between the US and Italy? Looking at judges, looking at law enforcement and how different issues are handled. And more importantly, since we're going to Italy, we can't go there without addressing the very long shadow and legacy of La Camorra, La Cosa Nostra, the mafia, right? So we've heard about them, we've seen a billion movies, right? Well, now we're actually going to ground zero as to where some of these things have happened. So, in terms of law enforcement and dealing with the mafia, what do anti-mafia efforts look like? How are survivors of the violence that the mafia has wrought upon communities? What resources are available to them? So, we'll be exploring that as well. So that's kind of a quick snapshot as to what is going to look like. We're likely going to have about 3 weeks in advance of just reading and preparation. And then the trip itself would be 1 week long over the course of spring break. So at this point, I'll shift it over to Professor Matulli to talk a little bit about what we can expect on the ground in Italy.
So thank you so much, Professor Pearson, and thank you for being here and having us here. Now, sometimes I might refer to Professor Pearson as Melba because we have a great rapport as well. We're tennis pals and we do many other things together. So when you embark on this trip with us, we want you to know that it's about gaining invaluable professional skills, being able to be not only have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the legal context in an international setting, but also being with us who are going to shepherd you through this journey. I myself, I have been to Italy probably, I would definitely say probably about 17, 18, 19 times, have lost track. I am married to someone from Italy, so that also increases the amount of times I go. But I would say Rome itself, it just is a wonderland. It is really an exploration, and not only professionally, legally, and the criminal justice system itself. So our focus is really to figure out how to house these particular adventures. And we've done so with a pretty aggressive plan, I would say. We're going to be going to the Supreme Court, the Italian Supreme Court. We're going to be speaking with the leading NGO that deals with human trafficking. As Professor Pearson said, we are also going to dive into what exactly does organized crime look like in Italy, and those who are actually working in that space. And to do that, you have to go to La Bella Napoli. So it's really interesting to not only be able to take a day trip to Naples, but also to be surrounded by those who are constantly engaged in those specific fields of law. We also want you to enjoy Italy. I mean, it's a very special and unique place to go to. And if this is your first time, io parlo italiano, I speak Italian fluently. As I said, I've been there many, many times. And I'm really excited to embark on this trip with you. Melba and I have really thought carefully about how to carve out in our ambitious program, if you will, 1 week that really touches the heart and soul of all the things that are so majestic about Italy as well. So we do want you to taste the food and savor, the pizza, la pasta, because in all regions of Italy, as you'll see, in Rome, it's very different than it is in Napoli, right? And sometimes people say it's the water in Naples that makes the pizza so hypnotic. I would agree with that. Prior to going there, I did not eat that much pizza as I did once I landed. So we want you to have this cultural immersion because Italy does lend itself to just that. And we're going to also tour these 2 specific cities so you get your footing from the very beginning, and be really conscious about how to really fill our time very well. So you not only get that experiential learning in the legal sphere and criminal justice field, but you also get the beautiful culture that we will embrace together.
And not to mention, well, so first off, the first 3 weeks that I had referred to earlier in terms of the program and the prep work, that's fully online. So there's that. And then all you have to do is show up at the airport with your bags and come on the trip and enjoy. Everything is going to be, well, first of all, you have the FIU travel agency to kind of assist you in getting your flights and figuring out what's going to be the best times, because of course we want to make sure you're there in a timely manner so that you can take advantage of the whole week. Because remember, the flight is quite long, there's time difference, so they can help guide you through that. But the price is $2,100, and that includes some of the meals, all of your lodging. We will also have some tours that will be included, including the ability to maybe go to the Vatican. We're still working out the specifics of what destinations we will be including, but we will make sure that there's a nice handful of things that would be not only educational, but be of interest. Because again, if this is your first trip to Italy, we want to make sure that not only do you get a great educational value, you actually get to enjoy the city and the country we're in. So the food, because this is my first trip to Italy. So this is, I'm going because like Allie is like, listen, we gotta go. This place is amazing, whatever. And I'm like, okay, say less. Let's do a class. Let's do it. So here we are. So this is going to be my first time. So I'm going to be looking at the country with your eyes as well, right? So we're all going to be kind of in this together, with Professor Matulli being the seasoned guide to take us around the country. So, there's that aspect. And again, it's spring break. You've got a week off. Like, what better way than to get a couple course credits and get to hang out in an amazing country, an amazing destination with so much history and culture and amazing food and, gathering. And it's a very social place. So there's so much to look forward to there. Now, also, one thing that I have to note, it is not just for FIU students. If you're enrolled in any college or university, you can join as well. It's just a matter of making sure that the courses work for your university, which is why professional development and independent study tend to be better options for that. But definitely, if you're like, hey, I want to roll with my buddy who's over at Broward College, not an issue. As long as they can make it work with the school and they've got the fee, they can make it happen. So definitely keep that in mind. So if you just, like I said, you want to bring your crew, this is the way to do it.
You've raised some excellent points, Professor Pearson, and I do want to remind students as well, the fact that we're doing the applications on a rolling basis, we already have quite a few applications. So if you're interested, you want to be timely, you want to get your application in, because we do have limited availability. The GPA requirement is 2.5. And then we just evaluate you on the completion, the full package that you submit. So you want to be as complete as possible, make sure that you fulfill all requirements as far as signatures are concerned, so that you don't end up with hey, a reminder, this is not complete, and it perhaps limits your opportunity to get into the trip itself. But we are, we're geeked up. We're very excited. Whether it's your 17, 18, 19 time or your first time, yes, the Italian, the history, the culture, just walking around Rome, eating a gelato, and all of these experiences are enriching. Art is everywhere. It is in the air, if you will. So it's a fantastic place. I myself write quite a bit, as you've heard. So it's a perfect place to plant yourself. Whatever your brings you joy in silent moments or in bustling cities, you will find that in Rome.
And also, too, we are keeping the group small. We're not looking to bring, 30 people and try to like traipse everybody through the city, right? We want a nice small core group where it's nimble, where when we, let's say, have discussions with justices in the Italian court or prosecutors or whatever, that is a nice round table discussion. And that I see there's a question, so we'll get to that in a second, but I just want to acknowledge you. But at least it's a more intimate environment so you can really ask questions and have real dialogue and understand what's going on, which to me makes for a better experience. And also in terms of the coursework, there's going to be reading just so you're kind of prepared, and again, having a refresher on the US system and then starting to learn about the Italian system. But the final project is something that's going to be very interactive in terms of you really talking about your experiences and what you've learned using, basically your final is going to be a video. So it's going to be something where you're incorporating the amazing memories and time that you had over the course of the week, as well as all that you have learned over the course of the month, and bringing that all together in a very exciting, fun, and accessible way for your final project. So food for thought on that. I see, Janiqua, you have a question?
Yes. Good afternoon first. But I just have one question about the trip because I graduate this fall. So do I still have to be enrolled next semester to go, or how do that work?
That's a really good question that I can't say I immediately know the answer to, Professor
I
Matulli.
would say you have to speak with your academic advisor, because what happens is, as far two things, you should definitely reach out to FIU Study Abroad. You can send us an email and we can also initiate that question with them and then circle back to you, because we do want to answer this question. We've been through tons of applications and this is the first time I've had this question come up. I know that it's usually, obviously it's an undergrad program, and I've had students who graduated as well who came back and took my undergrad classes. So I would say that it's probably possible, but we want to confirm and make sure that we give you the correct answer. So if you can shoot us an email, we will make sure that we get that answer for you within 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll try to get you an answer before we leave this session today, but regardless, please follow up with us by email.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the lawyer in us. We definitely need to have it documented. When you wear that hat, you just need to make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's. With that said, and Professor Pearson touched on something really important. Our goal is not to have a slew of students that that don't have access to us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what we bring as far as our talents are concerned, we want to have those intimate conversations with students. We want to get your feedback. We want to feel the pulse of what you're feeling as you're, walking through the Italian Supreme Court. Not everybody, we have to have special permission. Believe me, it takes months to get in there. So we want to make sure that you're getting an experience unlike no other. So if you're going to invest on getting on that flight with us, we are going to come with it. I myself, as a student, went on a couple of study abroads, and they can be fantastic, but they can have some some things that need to be tweaked as well. And we're open to all of that. We're actually really excited. And that's why we're keeping the group the size and the manageability that it will be, because we want to make sure that your experience is personalized.
Okay, so update on Janiqua on your question. I've been informed that you need to apply to basically a non-degree, and you have to be responsible for the program fees, the tuition fees out of pocket. So definitely get with your academic advisor and financial aid to figure out what you need to do, but that would be the path that you have to follow in order to be able to join us. And we hope you can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Um,
We can pause here for a second. Are there other questions? Oh, okay. I see Madison, Nicholas asked, what exactly does the $2,100 include? Well, that is a good question. So it includes, first off, your accommodation. So your accommodation for the entire time, international health insurance, local transportation to each of the different locations that we're going to. Some meals, we're not doing all meals, but likely a welcome dinner, a farewell dinner, a few breakfasts in between, that sort of thing. And again, some excursions and tours. So again, we're working on a tour of the Vatican. We definitely have nailed down the Italian Supreme Court. We're looking at a meeting with NGOs, non-governmental organizations that work with survivors of human trafficking, survivors of mob violence, that sort of thing. So there are a few things that are in flux in terms of what the actual excursions will be, but there will be excursions, make no mistake about it. And you will also have free time as well. So it's not like you're going to be, we're going to be busy, don't get me wrong, but you will have the opportunity to be able to sightsee, take a breather, kind of digest everything that you've been learning, take your little notes, and, you can do that over an espresso at a cafe, something like that, no judgment here. So that's what is included. Now, to be clear, airfare is not included. Airfare is not included. So again, you would have to work with the FIU travel agency to make sure you get the appropriate flight, to make sure that you are here on time. Also, I see that there is two more questions. In terms of the group size, we're trying to keep it small, maybe around 12 to 15 people, not much more than that. So that's why it's super important to make sure that you get your application in as well as your commitment. So it's one thing to, hey, I'm filling out the application, great, yay, I want to come, but you also have to commit with a deposit. And until you do that, your seat on the study abroad is not confirmed. So please remember, because that's really important. You don't want to miss out as a result. I see there's another question. Is this opportunity would be too short to count for the medallion capstone? The answer on that is this would be short for a capstone, but yes, it can count as a 5-point opportunity, which applies towards your activity requirement. So something else there to keep in mind.
If I can just chime in also. So
Absolutely.
yes, I just wanted to say yes. So absolutely, this would be short of a capstone. But it would still apply to a good chunk of your activity requirement. Remember, you have 20 points. So this would be a 5-point opportunity. So if that's what's stopping you, I wouldn't let it. It sounds like a really great experience. As someone who's also been to Italy, I think this is, a once in a lifetime thing, to be honest. So
can I talk for a minute? Sorry.
Absolutely, Wendy.
The program fees also don't include tuition. Tuition is something separate. So just be mindful of that.
And if I am not mistaken, this is something that you can work out with a financial aid to be able to attend. I don't want to speak out of turn if that's not fully correct, but I believe there's a pathway that you can use your financial aid to be able to attend.
Yes, and every financial aid is different, so just be mindful of that too, okay?
Pausing for a second, other questions?
I have a question. This might be more for Allison to answer. But what is maybe one cultural maybe like norm that's in Italy that you think maybe the students might look forward to observing? Something that's maybe different or distinct to the Italian way of life.
Well, I would say there's a reason why there is the piazza in Italy, and it's such an important meeting center. There's my favorite, of course, is Piazza Navona. I met my husband there, so I'm biased. But it is a space that allows you to just absorb culture. I mean, you have people outside, they're painting, you're walking past Fontana di Trevi, you are engaging in structures that just seem like they're cut out of a movie. So I feel like that's such an enriching part of the Italian culture. And in general, I think Italians are really good at slowing down the pace to enjoy all of these things. And then, of course, I mentioned before, the gelateria. I mean, it's really important. You will never taste ice cream like you taste in Italy. So prepare yourself. There's a reason why Italy is known for food. And as I said, each region has a different type of pasta, completely different. So if you're talking in the south, you're talking about gnocchi. That's in especially when we go to Naples, that's from gnocchi. And you have like orecchiette, it's called little ears. So the Italians, I think the imagination of the language, it lends itself, and it's transmitted throughout the culture. And last, of course, la moda. So if you love fashion, I mean, which I do, and I'm sure Professor Pearson does as well, if it's not obvious by what's on the screen. I would say that you will have your finger on the pulse of fashion, even just walking around. You engage in the arts in such a different way than I think most cultures that don't have those central squares where people are constantly walking and engaging with each other and engaging with what's around them, and it's just second nature. That's what I find the most fascinating about Italian culture, and you will too.
And I mean, just think about what your Instagram feed is going to look like during the show. I'm just saying.
True.
Do it for the gram. Do it for the gram.
I also wanted to ask a question based on your backgrounds as well, and on criminal law. What kind of ethical challenges have you seen between both the US and the Italian systems?
Well, I think there is a lot of overlap in terms of, for instance, policing, in terms of what level of force is required or necessary or unacceptable in affecting an arrest. In terms of how survivors of crime are treated, in terms of how immigrants are treated, because again, there's been a lot of discussion in Italy in terms of, many refugees and migrants coming from Africa and other areas, trying to be able to either A, stay in Italy, or B, go to other parts of Europe, and how that should be handled and how to do so in a humanitarian manner, which is similar to what we're discussing here stateside. And of course, that all intersects with crime and justice as well. Who gets due process, what that looks like. And of course, my deep interest as a former prosecutor is prosecutorial discretion. We know that prosecutors in the US have very wide discretion in terms of what types of charges to bring, whether or not to file charges at all, what would be the appropriate plea or sentence as the result of a conviction or the conclusion of a case. I'm very curious to know what that looks like in Italy and what kind of discretion the prosecutors have there. Or is it a type of situation where it's the police that dictates and the judge is more hands-on than the prosecutor? So I'm very fascinated to see how that all plays out. So that's some of the things I'm thinking about. Professor Matulli, what do you think?
I would say, I mean, obviously the ones that you've hit, I would say right now, since immigration is such a hot topic, you have to remember the position geographically where Italy is. And that's why it was included in my global Fulbright. because it is just strategically in a part of the world where it's kind of been, if you will, a gateway from Africa and Northern Africa into Europe. So you have had, if you followed any of what happens in Europe with respect to the immigration process, we are also looking and we're trying to gain access as well to get to Centro Astali. So that is specifically like a refugee processing center. And it's something that I think would be fascinating for students to get a sense of how that differs with what's all that's in the news here. I mean, we're in Florida, so not only do we need to have the finger on the pulse of what's going on, but we almost are the pulse at times. So I think, the movement of people on the earth is always going to be fascinating. And when you're in these pivotal geographic locations that can be controversial, you probably want to know, legally speaking, what's happening and how that can compare to what's happening in the US. And Italy lends itself to that in 12 folds.
Other thoughts or questions about the amazing trip that we have planned? I'm super excited. So I hope you.
I am as well. And, our enthusiasm, I think, for this trip, and we both travel quite a bit. So to put this on our calendar is not easy to do, but we thought it was so important to enrich our students' lives and to take almost this pilgrimage together and to really seek out an aspect of all that's going on in this. We teach comparative criminal justice systems. It's interesting to learn things on a page. I always tell students, especially those who want to go off to law school, it's very interesting to learn the law on a sheet of paper. It's very different to marry that to the facts of people's lives. So when you engage with both and whatever field of law, because there are many fields of law, so people think like, oh, it's just law and order. No, it's not just law and order, but that kind of piques your interest. So that's all that matters. You need that gateway in, right? And that enthusiasm. But once you start to marry that to facts on the ground, and you're able to also dot the I in our FIU, right? You dot that international experience. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing. That's what has gotten me to this country so often, and so many others. I think I've been to over 40 countries in the world, and I feel like I always want to see more, because engaging with people, it just gives you such a different nuance about life, and maybe it also rejuvenates your own ideas.
And also makes you more appreciative of what you may have at home, especially when you start to see maybe the struggles or other life paths that people have, and you're like, actually, this is so bad, So that appreciation for what you have, I think, is one of the great parts about travel. But also, too, is just that learning aspect. Like I said, I've never been to Italy, and I'm really looking forward to learning along with all of you. And the questions I'm going to ask are legit. Like, I don't know the answer. I want to know, and I want them to teach me about their system so that I'm a more well-rounded attorney, right? So when I'm giving lectures or maybe dealing with a particular case or whatever it may be, I have this international perspective, and I can be like, wait a minute, maybe we need to approach this a different way, or maybe there's a cultural nuance with the person that's involved in the case. And I know this because I traveled to this country and I saw this. So for me, it's also a learning experience as much as it is a teaching experience. So again, I hope you guys are super jazzed about this and come and join us.
Yes. And the last thing I will add to that, which I think is important to note, do you need to learn and know Italian? No, you do not. All right. I would say the one thing about Rome, especially because it's so international, there's such that international flair to it. You just try a few words and off you go, I feel like they're very receptive. They're very energized about interacting with international folks. And yes, if need be, sto qua, quindi non ci preoccupare. Quindi, you know, if you need the Italian, I will be there. And I think when we go through, for example, the Supreme Court, we'll have a translator. So we want you to be able to gain the information and have it accessible, and you'd have someone there that is professionally able to translate, so that we can make sure that we get the most out of it. But don't hesitate to, you know, look up on a different, look up some
Google
apps.
Translate. Google
And
Translate.
take
Proof.
yes, Google Translate. Take whatever you need, you know, a book or whatever you find handy. Google Translate is probably the best option that's available right away. And learn a few words. I mean, especially if you speak Spanish already, the Italian will come very easy, very, very easy.
So any other questions? Thoughts, comments? All right, I'll turn it back over to our illustrious host.
Thank you so much, ladies. And as someone that loves Italy, I can connect 100% with the cultural component and everything that that beautiful country has to offer. I hope this was very informational for everybody, and then you consider looking into this wonderful opportunity with Dr. Pearson and Dr. Matulli. They had shared the link. I think it was Wendy that shared the link in the chat on how you're able to connect with this experience. I'm going to go ahead and put it in here once again. I'm also going to share screen so you get to see a little bit about this wonderful opportunity. Are you able to see the screen? Yes, okay, good. So they mentioned what is included, the courses, and the information is also listed in there as well. So once again, it was a pleasure having you both here, and we truly appreciate the wonderful work that you both do, and also creating that perspective of being more well-rounded, connecting with other parts of the world when it comes to criminal law. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. And then as a reminder to everyone, TTR is going to continue next week, but this time around it's going to be in person. So we look forward to seeing you all in GC 150. We're going to be having a conversation on small steps to big waves, Clean Miami Beach and the fight against plastic pollution, led by the organization Clean Miami Beach. If you would like to provide us with feedback on sessions that you would like to see in the future, feel free to go to go.fiu.edu/TTR feedback. And then we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you to our presenters. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much. Yes. Bye everyone. See y'all in Rome.
Ci vediamo in Italia.